Hello everyone, it's good to be back again. I'm Nick Peters, the gaming theologian, and I affirm the virgin birth. Let's go to our intro. It's been a while since I've been here because for one, I had my parents in town, and time with family comes first. And second, I was having some computer difficulties. So I've ordered some equipment to fix that, but this is also one reason I encourage you all to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And become donors at Patreon and my Substack as well, either one of those, because where funds cost something. And getting equipment to keep doing this costs something. So any help you can give would be great for that. So, last time we were outside, we visited the town of Silvera, and we discovered that we did not have enough money for everything. And so this is very likely going to be the last time in the game I ever have to do any grinding. But even if I do have enough money, I come here anyway. And so since I'm grinding, I thought maybe I should talk about the life of study. Oh, I did not mean to do that one there. Let's hope this turns out well. Okay, now why am I hearing Cessor if young is 1 damage? That's why. Yeah, we might not survive this one. We'll see what happens. Okay, or we might. I'd really been hoping to find just the regular high potion. Ah, there it is. So, grinding, I saw a video once on the origin of the term grinding, which I thought was interesting. Unfortunately, it's hard to say where it came from, but it refers to putting in the work of just fighting enemies and earning experience and income so you can be better prepared for situations. And sleep play, that's going to be extremely helpful here. Anyway, that life of study is kind of similar to grinding. Anyway, we're not going to go get those yet because there's something else I want to do here. In that, the reason you should study as a Christian is so you can be prepared for whatever comes your way in the future. Now, some of you might see me on here playing all these games and thinking, well, gee, when exactly are you finding time to study? Good question. Okay, I thought there were ways to hear here, but I guess not. So what we're going to do then is go over here to a town where the inn is cheap, and here or there. Generally, I don't start my console gaming until 5 in the afternoon. And I'm very finicky about that. And when the time comes for the gaming, I enjoy it very much. But usually I've got an ECHO device here. So at the same time, I'm also listening to material to help me out. I like listening to a lot of political stuff at the time, keeping up with the news, what's going on in the world. But I also watch a lot of fun stuff, things like video games and superheroes and things of that sort. But when it comes to study, when I wake up in the morning, where the first reading is always the same, Scripture, I go through the Bible chronologically. Whichever testament I'm in, I read the next chapter in that one first. And then, after that, I read a chapter from the Old Testament, usually going through one book at a time, whichever one I happen to choose at the time to go through. And then, after that, throughout the day, now I'm not going to tell you I do all of this every day. I wish I did. I wish I could, but some days I fall behind. Saturdays are usually the worst, because Saturdays when I do my grocery shopping, and I don't always find the time to do things then. But what I try to do is I read a chapter of a mystery, then something that I disagree with. Okay, I'm going to have to hear him after this. Then I'm going through 3 works of fiction. So I'll read one of those at a time. Then I move on to the Church Fathers. Then to Thomas Aquinas, something of his. Then I usually read something political. Like right now, I'm reading about communism, the Red Holocaust, as it's called. Then I read something philosophical. And after that, usually I try and read something theological as well, or something related to my studies in gaming. And then sometimes I'll just read something fun if I have time um, until it's game time for me. And if I have school reading that I have to do, I usually try and find a way I can fit it into one of those categories to further things along for me. Now, when it comes time for me to get my shower, I actually have in my shower a stand that I can put my Kindle on, and I cycle through books that I read each different day while I'm in the shower. Yes, I actually read in the shower. Now, at night, I'll usually watch some television, at least for 2 hours before I go to bed, just something to relax during the day. And now I found that while I'm watching, I got on Humble Bundle the complete Peanuts collection. So I'm reading through that. When I go to brush my teeth, I read something else. Right now I'm doing the complete works of Carl Jung, because apparently he had a big influence on a lot of gamers in the RPG community, even if we don't know it. Then I do some puzzle games on my Kindle, and when I'm doing that, I listen to an audiobook normally related to my studies of gaming. And then for the final 10 minutes of a night, I go and I just read something just purely for fun. That's all I care about. Something that can make me laugh. Just a little bright spot at the end of the day. And then it's time for bed. And by the way, in the midst of all this also, I'm normally finding time to do a blog 5 days a week. I'm interacting regularly on social media, engaging with skeptics of the Christian faith and things of that sort. And I'm doing these live streams as well. So, yes, I keep busy. And fortunately, I do have a job where I am allowed my time to read and study there, and I take advantage of that. But that's what I do. I've been told by one of the professors here that I could be the most well-read student in the PhD program. Maybe. But if I am, it's not because of anything special in me. It's because I choose to put in the work. And the benefits of putting in the work are that, well, after a while, you know what you're talking about. You can talk with people on a variety of topics and speak from a place not of ignorance, but a place of knowledge. This is one of the important aspects of reading something I disagree with, and usually that's something outside of the Christian faith, but sometimes I can read materials that are Christian that I disagree with, so I can learn their perspective on issues as well. And I consider it extremely important for people to be reading material they disagree with, because if they don't, they just stay in an echo chamber where all they hear are their own thoughts, and that's it. Also, when you read material that you disagree with, you can cite it to other people who hold those positions so they can know that you know what you're talking about, and you can make your case better because you're not using your sources, you're using theirs. In my way, this includes reading other religions as well, and not just scholarly works about them, but also reading mainly their own holy books, as you were. I've read the Quran, I've read the Analects of Confucius, I've read the Tao Te Ching, and I've read all of the Mormon scriptures. And I consider myself much better informed for having done all this. There is no substitute for study. I have someone I'm kind of mentoring here who's also in a PhD program. And I've gone over his papers before. And what he's writing, I think, is much improved. At the start, I read something, and I listened to read his arguments, and I'd say, okay, can you back this claim? And if I got no, then I just gave him a simple rule, okay? If you can't back it, don't claim it. Don't say something if you cannot back that claim. And also, cite your sources when you say something. Now, I'm going to grant you, oftentimes, the life of study is not exactly what you do when you just want to have a purely good time. Sometimes it can get tedious, especially when you're reading something you disagree with, and let's face it, it is boring at times. But you do it because you want to be prepared. And that's also why you do something like grinding in a game like this. You grind not because you necessarily enjoy it, but because, by golly, when those future battles show up, you want to be ready. And there is something very enjoyable about going into battles later on in the game and laying waste to everything around you because you did your study, you did the grinding, and you can tear through all the enemies. Knowing that, usually, you have a lot more money in the process too. Okay, we're going to use Osmos this time on these guys since I used a spare last time. Hopefully we'll get to refill Terla's MP a bit. Well, that was a start. Not as much as I'd hope, but it's something at least. So now we're just going to do auto battle the rest of the way. Oh well. You know, when you do though study, so like say, another religion, I recommend you always try and find someone from that position to study it. And try and find a good academic publisher. Try and find the best work that you can in that field. For instance, a few years ago, I was working at a Walmart, and I was in the bathroom, public bathroom, and I always had a book with me, and I laid it down, and a guy in there decided to comment, and we had a little discussion. I don't remember what was said entirely, but he told me he was a worshiper of Norse religions. Now, some of you might be surprised hearing that, because yes, I mean gods like Thor and Loki and Odin, which some of you might know best from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But these are people who treat these deities as real. You might say, well, that seems strange to me. And they'd say your beliefs are strange to them. And for a time before Christianity, there were plenty of people who treated these deities as real. And so what do? I go online and I work to look through a number of books and say, what is the best book on this topic? And I already knew the name of the belief. It's called Asatru. Tried to find the best book that I could, ordered it, read it, wanting to understand the position in the words of one of its defenders. You know, many times when I talk with someone who's an atheist or a Mormon or a Jehovah's Witness or anything like that, one question I regularly ask them is, when was the last time you read a book on this topic that disagreed with you? You will find it, if you do this kind of thing, that very rarely will you find people who actually read books that disagree with them. And so they really do not know what their opponents think and why they think it. They entirely speak out of a place of ignorance, and to them, their arguments are just superb. But it's because they really do not know better. For instance, I will find plenty of people who still think that the cosmological argument for the existing of God says that Christians believe that everything that exists has a cause, or that this is what defenders of a cosmological argument have said for thousands of years. No defender of a cosmological argument says something like that. They don't. They're smart enough to know the inherent contradiction in a statement like that. What is said is that everything that begins to exist has a cause, which is a very different claim entirely, because if God does not begin to exist, then he doesn't have a cause. Now, you can say, I think you're begging a question in favor of God, and we'll probably have a live stream on that sometime. But at least get the argument right. Because when you interact with someone and they don't get your argument correct, you tend to not want to argue with them anymore. And if that's the case, you need to make sure you're treating your opponents with the exact same dignity. And say, hey, I care about your position so much in reaching you and making sure I understand you well that I want to be informed on what you believe, and I want to make sure that I am representing your position accurately. That's not asking too much, really. All you're saying is, I'm going to try and be honest and present your opponent well, your position well. Because if we are really people of truth, and that means we believe in truth, in the sense that we also want to represent our opponents accurately. We do not do any service to truth by misrepresenting people we disagree with. It is no benefit to the Christian faith to not be accurate about what your opponents believe. Truth matters in all things, including our opponents. We're going to do some switching around here. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, we'll probably still have to do some grinding next time, but I'll make sure to use that time to also talk about another topic. Now, like I said, I don't do all of this reading every day. But the last time I missed a lot of it was, I think it was February of this year when I had the flu, and it just wasn't in me. Oh yeah, I also use some apps and I get in 10,000 steps a day, and then I trade those in for gift cards like to a Nintendo eShop or Amazon or what have you. So yeah, it's something else I'm trying to do every day. So if someone's watching this and they think that all I'm doing all day is playing video games, you're very wrong with that. And even if I made enough that I didn't have to go into a full office job, I'd still spend the time studying probably until the time came at the day when I did my gaming. Of course, what could change this is if I were to get remarried someday, which is still a hope. But even then, I'll still set aside time for study because it's extremely important to me to be informed on matters and to be accurate about what I believe and why, and what my opponents believe and why, because that's a necessity when you do apologetics. You have to know not just your side, but your opponent's side. Before I do a live debate with an opponent, I normally try to read everything I can by them and try to read most anything I can relating to their position because I want to know what I'm talking about. I don't want to be caught flat-footed. It's really embarrassing when that happens. And I also make it a point to realize there are some areas I do not know where, and I cannot speak authoritatively on. And that's okay. Because if you think you're going to know everything, you're setting a bar way too high for you. For instance, one of the classes I'm going to be taking this fall on the PhD program is Christianity and Science. I find science fascinating in many ways, but I do not claim to understand it. And when it comes to the final points of science as science, I choose to not debate those issues. I will happily speak about, say, the history of science or the philosophy of science. Those are a lot of fun to talk about. But I won't talk about science as science because it's just not an area I've studied. And I'm okay with that. I don't have to study everything. And I don't have to know everything. And it is okay for me to be ignorant on some topics. I'm not losing sleep over that. And I encourage you, don't think you have to know everything either. Now, some of you out there listening, you could be very scientifically minded and say, you know what, that's the area I want to focus in my studies on the areas of Christianity and apologetics. And I say, good, go for it. Do that. And you say, but there's another area, and I just don't know a lot about it. And I say, okay, that's fine. Just don't speak about that area. Although there are two exceptions to this, I think you should have some basic knowledge at least. And that's going to be the existing of God and the resurrection of Jesus. I think you should at least be able to give a basic presentation in those areas for why you think what you think. You don't have to be the authority, but you should know at least enough so that you could talk to your average layman and give him some basic reasons. And there's no shame in saying, and here are the basic reasons for this, but if you want some more focused information, I encourage you to look at the work of, say, Gary Habermas more on this. No wrong in that. It's actually wise to know your limitations. So, this is all, like I said, part of a life of study, part of a life of the mind. And I really encourage you all to be good practitioners of it. One of the points I make with people is that I'm serious with everything I do. And I mean it. I'm serious. You say, well, you crack jokes all the time. Yes. And when I do that, I try to be seriously funny. And when I'm doing a game, I'm seriously trying to do my best at that game. And when I'm studying, I'm seriously studying. There's no contradiction in that. Give Jesus your best. He deserves it. He gave you his best, his everything on the cross. Give everything you have to him. Be a serious student of the life of a mind. Okay, well, I think for now I'm just going to do some light chatting about the game here. Can't believe I did that one, but okay. And some of the enemies here can drop very good equipment. Also, I think sometimes you can get a stone blade from some of the lizard enemies. I haven't seen that so far, but if I get that, I consider that much more helpful than the sleep blade. As good as the sleep blade is, it's a whole lot easy. It's a whole lot more beneficial to turn your enemies to stone instead of just to put them to sleep. And whenever you get excess equipment, then just take it to town and sell it. The system works just fine. A lot of these enemies are much more difficult. In fact, some of them, like the rock babies and the Moors enemies, unless you know about these enemies here, it's very easy to go through your whole game and not encounter them one time. Very easy. Okay, I'm using GERD here because Tela is going to be enough to finish these things off. I think these are the enemies that can drop the stone blade at times. Unfortunately, this was not one of those times, if I'm correct. Now, we have received Medusa arrows, and something very nice about this version of Final Fantasy IV is, in the original game, whenever you got arrows, you got a limited number of those arrows. Not in this one. Once you get the arrows, they're yours forever. You have, I mean, as long as you keep them in your inventory, you have an unlimited supply. So if some more enemies drop those arrows, I can just sell them. You know, since these enemies are asleep now, we're going to see what can happen when... Okay, that wasn't a lot, but it's something. And as we keep going, the more we grind, just like with a life of study, the easier it gets to overcome the opposition. You'll wind up having to go to the inn less and less. It's a nice little benefit. It's interesting, the rocks in this version actually have less hit points than the ravens that we encountered earlier in the game. It doesn't make much sense to me, but I'm not going to complain. I think it might have been different in the original Final Fantasy IV, but don't quote me for sure on that one. It's just my suspicions of what I remember. Now, one thing we're going to do here is we're going to go back up. Because we've got enough gold now. Go to Silvera here. Don't know why I went to that one first. Now, why aren't I buying a shield for Sid? Because if I do that, he can't equip his hammer items. Now, I was going to stop at the top of the owl, but since I've done all the grinding I need to do, I'm going to show you what else is in Eblin Castle, which is where we were. Now, if I wanted to be very spendthrift, I could have gone to a place that had jars of healing like Dempsey and Casser, but I didn't want to take that much time. In my way, another reminder, people, please like this video, comment, share, subscribe. We're over 125 subscribers now, and I like to keep that going up and up. Okay, we're going to save here first. And you're probably noticed that we're significantly stronger than when we first started tonight. Now, what this place is, you're not supposed to know right now. I do, but then I know this story extremely well for this game. And there was 10,000 gear right there. I don't think that was the case in the original game. So since we've cleaned out that side, go down here, save again. Yes, this can get repetitive after a bit, but It's all part of being prepared. Also, in the original game, a lot of times secrets were a lot harder to find. They are here. So we're going to go out here and save again because there's 2 more chests in this area that have monsters in them. And those monsters are not easy. We want to be prepared for them. Here's one of them. Now, the lamia can be particularly problematic because anytime you damage her, she'll use an attack that confuses you. What I'm going to try and do is put some of these enemies to sleep first. Yeah, that's also another one you want to avoid. You can paralyze. Sometimes it can even just kill outright when they do that. That's just what we wanted. Turns those 2 to stone. So now we're going to use a more powerful spare to see if we can just finish this one off directly. Unfortunately, no. But it weakened enough so that we could do that. And we get a blood lance for that one. Nothing we can do with that now, but we've got it. That one also contains monsters. So one more time we're going to do this. And this is a town that will become important later on in the story. This is also one reason why whenever you're playing a game and the world map gets open to you more, try and explore areas even that seem out of bounds for you at the time, just to see what you can find. I wish I'd done that the first time I played this game. I missed so much going through this game a few times because I did not know enough the importance of exploration. So, one more difficult chest to open. Kinda wonder who shut that door after we left. Mad ogres. These guys pack a punch. And they tend to also be very resistant to magic. At least magic damage. Magic conditions, that's a different matter. Fortunately, break works on them. We're going to keep Cesar healed up. This is the benefit of Young's focus. So now we've only got one more. He's asleep, and we're going to try and make sure things stay that way. And there you go. Also, charm magic works very well on ogres like that. We got a silver apple that increases maximum hit points. We're going to save it for an appropriate time. And this tower will come into play later on also. For now, we were supposed to head to the Kingdom of Troya, which this is the only spot we can land in. And we're going to start this one off next time. For now, I'm Nick Peters, the Gaming Theologian. I affirm the Virgin Birth. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Support me on Patreon. It means so much. And I will see